So guys, it's time to get started with the MLB Stadiums Big Bracket, and today we're going to start off with our very first matchup in the Big Bracket. It is Citi Field against Comerica Park. So what we're going to do today is we're going to compare the two stadiums, match them up side by side, and then at the end see which one is better, who is going to move on to the second round of this big stadium bracket. So let's get right into it, and we're going to start off with Citi Field of the New York Mets against Comerica Park of the Detroit Tigers. Alright, so first let's get us going with some quick stadium facts for Citi Field. It has a capacity of 41,922, located in Queens, New York City, in the Flushing Meadows area. It is right beside the tennis complex that hosts the US Open. And opening in 2009, it replaced the old Mets ballpark, Shea Stadium, and it cost $900 million back in 2009. And in today's money, accounting for inflation, that would be $1.23 billion. So onto the stadium. This is Citi Field. It's a wide shot of Citi Field, looks very nice. This was on opening day of 2023, but to me a few things stick out pretty instantly about the stadium. Number one is the home run apple over there in center field. That rises for every Mets home run. And then you also got the massive scoreboard. It's brand new for this season. And then you have the upper deck sections that's kind of split. So it's got a promenade going all around the upper deck, with a split upper deck, a lower upper deck, and an upper part of the upper deck, which is pretty cool. So firstly, I feel like we should talk about the interior of this ballpark. This is the seating plan. As you can see, it's a pretty large and formidable stadium. It's kind of compact and closed on all sides. But if you look more at the infield right behind home plate, you'll notice a lot of sections are cut up and they're pretty small, and that indicates that there's a lot of premium seating here at Citi Field. Obviously, it is in New York, and there will be more premium VIP seating due to the amount of money that's pumped into this ballpark and into this city. So looking more at the outfield of the stadium, I like the big scoreboard over there, and then you have a secondary scoreboard over to the right. You got that bridge kind of design over in right center field with that bleacher section overlooking the bullpens. I do like that a lot. I'll get into one of my criticisms of the stadium, and that is that the view of the actual stadium from the seats, in my opinion, is just a bit boring. You don't really see anything outside of the stadium. You just see kind of a bunch of seats and a bunch of advertisements. I know that's a little bit different with the new scoreboard and everything, but just in general, I would rather have a little bit of a view into the outfield instead of having a bunch of seats stacked upon each other. But let's take a closer look at the new scoreboards. This is obviously new for 2023, and it's massive. This new scoreboard is, I believe, the largest in the MLB, and then you got that secondary scoreboard over to the right. And personally, I love this. Just as a fan, when you look at a larger scoreboard instead of a smaller scoreboard, there's more to look at, it's more interesting, and you're more likely to be engaged throughout the ball game. So in terms of the dimensions of Citi Field, it's a pretty wide open ballpark with a deep center field at 408, and at right center you have 375, pretty deep at right center, 358 in left center, which is pretty balanced. You got 335 down the left field line and 330 down the right field line. And overall, the stadium is more of a pitcher's park. They had to move in the fences multiple times just because the old dimensions were so deep that home runs weren't being hit at all at this ballpark, and they had to make a few changes from its original construction. So right now we're looking at the left field side of the outfield, and you could see where the new fences are and where the old home run porch was. If you look at the Party City deck sign, that black wall back there was the old home run fence. And because they moved in the fences to 356 over there at that sign where the orange line is, they had to make a drinking rail deck, and it's called the Party City deck. And to me, this is one of the worst parts of the ballpark, just because aesthetically it looks really bad. It looks super detached. And it's weird how there's a big section of seats right behind it, but they don't actually overlook the outfield. They have to have this kind of Party City deck. To me, it's a little bit cheap and it does detract from the interior beauty of this pretty good ballpark. And so moving on to the infield of Citi Field, I'd say this is one of the strengths of the ballpark as a whole. It just looks super good. I like the black seating. It creates a dark atmosphere, which looks really nice. Again, in the upper deck, I like the split upper deck. The lighting on this image is a little bit better, and it kind of shows the view that you get from the outfield wall. And I like this a lot, and I like how even from the outfield, you get a really good view of the field. Just in general, you could see that in Citi Field, there's no obstructed seats. Every seat in the ballpark has a really good view of the playing field. In this one, you could see the premium areas a little bit more in detail. I like the sectioned off seats. And this is a photo from right field of the concourse in the outfield. And I like this a lot. You have a lot of open space to kind of walk around and roam around the stadium. You could probably walk around the entire thing, no problem. But I like this kind of industrial-ish design with a lot of trusses over there holding up the stadium. It just looks pretty cool. And over here you have the Delta Sky 360 Club. It's a nice enclosed box seating area. And then you got the premium seating below that and then right behind the plate over there. But I really like this section. It's super unique. It looks really nice from the outside. These seats are definitely the most expensive in the ballpark, and you could tell it's just really nice. Like, there's nothing bad to say about this. I love how ballparks have these unique premium seating areas. I like it a lot. It looks super luxurious, and I would love to have a chance to sit in there one day. Alright, so we've seen the interior of Citi Field. Now let's transition to the exterior of Citi Field. And to me, this is one of the better exterior ballparks in the MLB. I love that bricking design wrapping around the front rotunda over there with the big Citi Field sign. It looks really cool and really welcoming from the outside as well. And this is kind of the same photo but at night, and they light it up really well. It's got that classic industrial feel mixed with obviously the modern touch. And just the bricking looks super beautiful, super nice with the lighting on the outside too. And you could see in the upper deck, that's actually outside. So the upper deck concourse isn't actually covered. You're basically just exposed to the outside, which I find pretty interesting for a ballpark. My only issue with the exterior here is you do have a lot of parking and a lot of dead space around the stadium. It doesn't look like it's in a great area. It seems like there's not a lot of foot traffic. It seems like everyone who comes to a Mets game has to commute a little bit to get here, which isn't by itself a bad thing. But what I'm saying is it just could be located in a better area, but I understand that land here is probably a lot cheaper. So let's look at the main entrance to the stadium. This is the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. And like I said before, it's got a really nice exterior, super welcoming. You got the old home run Big Apple in the front. That was from Shea Stadium. They actually moved it over to the front of Citi Field as a kind of welcoming attraction. It looks pretty cool. And this is what it looks like when you walk into the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. It's just a really cool area, definitely bringing in the industrial vibes inside of the ballpark. You got those gas-lit lamps, and you got that grand staircase with, of course, the escalator leading to the upper levels, of course. But this is one of the better gates and entrances in the MLB. I really like this a lot. A super nice touch. And another stadium feature that we can't not talk about is the big home run apple. It's bright red. It's got the Mets logo on it. Super cool. Goes up for a home run and then retracts back down because it is part of the batter's eye, so it can't get in the way of that view. I'm not a huge fan of the all-black batter's eye. I wish it was a little bit more interesting with maybe some greenery or something like that, but the Mets Big Apple does make it a little bit nicer. But for the overall score of Citi Field, for the interior, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And for the exterior, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. And some main points are that it does have one of the best exteriors in the league. I really like that old industrial bricking on the outside. And for the interior does have great seats. None of them are obstructed. Super modern, probably lots of leg room. And the overall seating design inside the stadium is really nice. But the view is a little bit uninteresting. You don't get a view outside of the stadium. It's all enclosed. And I don't really like the batter's eye too much. It's fully black and not interesting at all. And then you got all the dead space in the outfield, which does detract from its score. Alright, so as to who Citi Field are facing, it is the Detroit Tigers' home ballpark, Comerica Park in Detroit. And some quick facts about this stadium: it has a capacity of 41,083. It is located in downtown, right beside Ford Field, and then Little Caesars Arena was constructed right kind of across the street from this ballpark. It replaced the old Tiger Stadium and it cost 300 million US dollars. So it's definitely a cheaper ballpark than Citi Field. But let's get right into it and analyze. So this is a really cool panorama shot from the outfield. And firstly, I like the split upper deck. It has the same kind of split upper deck as Citi Field, where you have a smaller section down below and then the larger upper deck portion above. And then down below, it's a very basic seating design. It looks like it only has two decks. You have the lower bowl, the large lower bowl, and then the big upper deck. I like the seating design. It's a dark green color for seats. I like it just because it's very basic, but I also don't like it because it is very basic. And you don't see a lot of sectioning off of the seats. It is very much like a wall of seats, especially in the lower bowl. There aren't a lot of interesting features about the seating design at all, so that's going to knock off a few points. But it is a nice stadium overall, and then you got that super nice view. You get to see all the nice tall buildings up there, and then you got a few old style buildings, which makes for a really cool backdrop. I love the view from the upper deck. So this is the seating configuration of Comerica Park. Not a lot of VIP sections in the lower bowl, and it's a pretty standard seating configuration. And as for the premium seats, you can see those are in gold. Right behind the plate, it's the big gold section over there. And then you got the suites, of course, but not a lot of premium sections at this ballpark. And in terms of the dimensions of Comerica Park, you can see here they did change it. So this was a change they made for the 2023 season. They moved center field in up to 412 feet. And even at 412, this is the second deepest outfield, second only to Coors Field in Colorado. And then they lowered a bunch of walls. Literally, they just painted the line lower, which I don't really like. But in general, this is one of the deepest ballparks in the MLB. It's very hard to hit a home run out to center field and out to those gaps. And we could see a little bit of that here. That yellow line is just pushed down a little bit. You could see on the wall where maybe it was pushed in, which again is a little bit strange for a ballpark. I don't really love that. Alright, so getting more into the seating alignment here at Comerica. These are the premium seats I was talking about, the gold premium seats. And to me, this is too old. The fact they are individual chairs rather than actual bolted in seats. But to me, this premium seating just isn't enough to be fully premium. I understand there is a little bit more legroom, but to me, it's just not good enough for a premium seat. And it isn't really up to current MLB Stadium standards. Looking into the infield of the stadium, it is nice. There's no doubt about that. I like the seating configuration, especially up in the outfield. But again, those premium seats up near the top of the lower bowl just aren't really good enough for me. I understand how it's an old stadium, but definitely they gotta improve that. But what I do like about the stadium are the entrances at Comerica Park. This is just really cool. I love the tigers over there. They're literally perched atop of the building. That is so cool. I mean, look at this one. You got the tiger sculpture literally pouncing on top of you. That is just so cool. I love this design, and it is one of the better entrances in the majors. And this is another entrance point to the stadium. It's a little bit scaled down because it is smaller, but still you got the same effect of those tigers kind of leaping from the top of the stadium. That's just really cool. I love it. Again, super nice touch they did there. One of the best, if not the best entrance in the majors for sure. Alright, so another interesting feature of Comerica Park inside the stadium are the Chevrolet fountains in center field. Apparently, these go off along with music and with home runs and stuff like that. And it's a nice little water feature. Looks pretty when it goes off. It's definitely not Kauffman's stadium level, but still, it is a nice little touch in the outfield. And then for the kids, you got a little Ferris wheel. I like that. It's a cool little attraction at the ballpark again. And then you got another carousel, tiger carousel here. I like this a lot. But that is going to be all for Comerica Park. As for the scores, for the interior, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. To me, it's just a little bit too boring. Not enough intrigue in terms of the seating layout, and the VIP seats aren't that great. And for the exterior, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Those entrances are super cool. You got the view of the entire city from the stadium, which is really nice. But now, as for deciding which ballpark we'll move on, I'm going to give it to Citi Field. I think it's pretty clear Citi Field is the more modern ballpark. The interior is a lot nicer than Comerica Park. It has better VIP seating, and the exterior of Citi Field is one of the best in the majors. But that's what's going to push it over the top compared to Comerica Park. Comerica just lacks the interior design. The outfield is super deep, but it is Citi Field that gets to move on here. We're going to move on to the next matchup, T-Mobile Park versus American Family Field, the Battle of the Roofs, in the next episode of the series. But that is all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also leave a comment about your thoughts about this matchup. And if you've been to any of these ballparks, I want to know your opinion. But that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.